go. We are live. Welcome everyone to I guess it's a special edition of the Example Show where I talk to podcast and live show hosts. And today we are talking to Scott Taylor, the data whisperer. So a little bit about how this worked out. I was going to do a show today. I wasn't really sure who I was going to have on. I put out a LinkedIn message asking for people to join in. Actually, there was a lot of people that responded they wanted to join in, and I couldn't pick everybody. So I picked Scott, and we might have another guest drop in while we are here, but that's what we got going on. I am going to now toss it over to Scott to give us a quick introduction about himself and why today we're going to be talking about live streaming goals and accomplishments, but I'm going to throw it over to Scott to talk a little bit about what he does and who he is.
Great. Thank you, Ryan. Delighted to be here. I know we met on LinkedIn, this wonderful platform we all kind of mingle on. I've been doing LinkedIn Live since March. I focus on the data space, in particular the data management space, hence the moniker, the data whisperer. I help calm data down. That's what we do. And data management, for those of you who are not familiar with that part of the data world, is really where you establish and determine the truth in data, hence the meaning of my truth hat, versus business intelligence and analytics where you derive meaning. So in the data space, there's two big buckets. There's determining the truth and there's deriving meaning. And I'm on the truth side. That's my nomenclature, by the way. So don't try and look that up in a textbook. You're probably not going to find it. And I've been doing, I help people tell stories about their data. And my live stream is actually called Telling Your Data Story, where I get people to come in and talk about what they do with data, how they manage it, why it's important to their organization, and a variety of other strategic topics.
Well, that's fantastic. So that's a little bit of background about how Scott and I know each other. We are both in the data space, data management. I do a little bit more data science and tech stuff, but we have a little bit of an overlap there. We also both like LinkedIn live streaming, so we have a little overlap there as well. Got a couple of comments from people that are watching. David, thank you for watching and joining in here. And
let's see the comments there. Okay, there they are. Yeah.
Jim, yeah. Actually, before we even get started, I use StreamYard to do all of my streams, but do you use StreamYard?
I use StreamYard too. I'm a StreamYard fanatic for sure. I checked out a couple of things. There's somebody I work with who does a tremendous amount of streaming. Her name is Kate Strachny, so I've got to make sure she gets into your group too. She hooked me up with StreamYard. I love it. It's very simple. I like how you can show. I like that sort of news commentator view is what I call it, where you can have a small graphic kind of near your head, and you're still taking up most of the screen. That's a nice, better than Zoom, but it works like a charm. Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. Hey, Mr. Mudface, I'm gonna throw this out there. This is my first Twitch watcher, but I actually know who that is. That's my son. So he's watching. Hey, Trey, thanks for watching. I'm throwing you up on the screen there. David told me I'm getting a lot of static.
Yeah, I still kind of hear it. I don't know if you...
All right, I think I'm having some technical issues on my microphone. But it's live, so we're just going to go with it.
So
I might try to mute myself.
It's not me. In case you're...
Jim thanks StreamYard rocks. I would agree with all of those. So I said I was going to mention a couple of my accomplishments, and then I'm going to mute myself and let you talk about accomplishments and goals. So for years, I had wanted to do live streaming, and I had done one or two previous to 2020. And then in 2020, I decided to get a little more consistent. And so I started what I called the Example Show, and I wanted to learn about live streaming. So I talked to a lot of other people that live stream and created podcasts and had this presence of getting in front of a camera or a microphone and talking. And so that's what I did. And I really enjoyed it. I felt like I made a new friend every week. I did this. And 2020, one of the things I'm planning to do more in 2021 is getting into the tech and data science learning education space. So I have some ideas about some shows I want to create, but this is what I would say my goal is: to figure out how I could actually monetize live streaming whether that is indirectly or directly from hosting a show or producing it. But so that's a little bit about my accomplishments and goals. I'm going to throw it over to you. Actually, hold on. We have Beth showed up. Beth.
Hey, Beth.
Hello there.
Welcome to the group. Welcome to this.
Thank you.
This is all of us that's going to be here, so people aren't going to keep adding in. There's only 3 of us.
Hey, Beth. We
Excellent.
met last August, I think it was, with Zach Scrifton.
That was a while ago.
Yeah, that's where you and I met, where we had that spontaneous
Time is doing funny things, isn't it?
meet up by the vessel in Hudson Yards for you New York fans.
So you two even know each other. This is
Yeah,
fantastic.
we met with just like a couple of a handful of people there. This guy Zach Scrifton that we both know, I guess. He was all gung ho about having a meetup, and he called me, and we met at the Empire State Building at LinkedIn headquarters, and then we walked down to Hudson Yards, and there were a handful of us there. And he's a video guy, so he was filming all kinds of stuff. And yeah,
It's amazing the people you meet in this space. Beth, since you just got here, I'm really working on my arrows and stuff. So you're this way. This way. I'm going to throw it over you to introduce yourself to the people that are listening here.
Okay. Hello. I'm Beth Granger. I'm a trainer, consultant, and speaker on the topic of growing your business using LinkedIn and networking.
Well, fantastic. That was short and quick.
yeah,
Short and
All right,
sweet.
do it.
And
I'm
it
playing
started
around with
snowing.
the-
I don't know where you are, but the snowstorm
Is it snow?
has
I'm in
begun.
Connecticut, so it's coming here.
Yep. It
It's on
started
its
on
way.
Long Island. Yep.
We got a full fridge. We're ready for the nor'easter, buckling down
Oh,
for the
man.
first one of the season.
I think this is my first live where I've had more than one other guest on there. So I'm moving you people around,
Nice. You can play with the StreamYard functionality.
trying to get used to that. Beth, since I've got you big front and center right now, let's just start with this. What are the accomplishments you have said that you have accomplished for live streaming in 2020?
So what that accomplished this year?
Yes.
Well, pretty consistently, except for an occasional where I took a week off, going live every week on LinkedIn, and typically a second location as well, because I like to experiment and see what happens when I send it to more than one place. And as you know, it takes time and effort to promote it, to do it. So I'm pretty proud of myself for consistently doing it, and I had a great time.
Yes, it does take a lot of work, and it is fun to do, and it's important to be consistent. And I will admit I haven't been consistent the last 2 months so far, so I'm feeling a little bad about that. But somebody once told me, don't beat yourself up if you miss consistency, just get back to it. And so that's what I'm gonna do. Now I'm gonna bring Scott front and center. Isn't that exciting? I just flipped you over.
You're doing great without a technical director. You're doing just that.
StreamYard is awesome there. But
It is.
so Scott, tell us a little bit about what have you done as far as live streaming, and what did you accomplish in 2020?
So I had LinkedIn Live for a couple of months and didn't use it. I actually got it the day that I met Beth. Not that there was a connection there, but I bumped into the product manager at LinkedIn who ran LinkedIn Live in those days. He's no longer there. And he kind of took a look at my profile, sort of went, oh, you're doing okay. Yeah, sure. Write a note. And when you apply, mention me. And so I got totally lucky. I'll admit it. But I feel like I've earned my place since then. And there were a couple of months where I just was really hesitant to jump in. And then March happened. We all got locked down. And I went, I do a lot of physical events, or that's what I did last year. I travel the world. I do speaking. I do webinars. I do, host events and panels and all that kind of stuff. So there was no outlet for that anymore. So I felt, all right, I've got to jump out there and start to do it. The first one, I was definitely nervous, and then just picked it up from there. And I did what I was trying to do was something that was relatively organized and structured. So I just called it Telling Your Data Story. I had little bits in the beginning, either news things or mildly humorous stuff about data. Believe me, that's not an oxymoron. You can get funny about data if you want to. And then bring on a guest of some sort and keep it limited to a certain amount of time, and really, again, sort of apply some structure so people felt like they were watching a show. What's wrong with that? And that formality worked for me, got a lot of engagement, picked up a bunch of folks. I was doing it pretty regularly, like literally 3 times a week for 3 weeks. I did it. And I just went, all right, this is just talk about work. It's just like, this is just too much activity. And I did about 15 or 20 of them and then sort of slowed it down. But part of the objective there, and I definitely met my, accomplished my goal, which was just to get familiar with the medium, figure out the positives and negatives. There are plenty on both sides, and just establish and extend the voice I already had through the other tactics that I used in terms of delivering content. I do content for a living. So when you talk, Ryan, about monetizing LinkedIn Live, I think I've already done that. Hey, Phil. Because part of my set of capabilities with my clients is, okay, we'll do an interview on LinkedIn Live, and that'll be part of it. You can promote it. I can promote it. And as you all know, with LinkedIn Live, you can get 100 people, you can get 4 people, you can get 50 people. You never know. I give them that up front. But for me, I've found when people go live, there's a different type of energy in the conversation. And the fact that Zoom records everything, you can get that video, that then becomes fodder, Gary Fee style, to chop that up and then push out other content nuggets of one piece of the conversation. And so that's worked beautifully so far.
Yeah, the content reuse is a big thing. And so I think this is Brigetti who is commenting. I think the feedback is all coming from me. This is what happens in live. You get to be a host. When I mute myself, it goes away. So I'm going to try to talk less. But Beth, I'm going to bring you back up to the middle.
Sure.
And talk about what do you have as far as live streaming goals for 2021, and are you going to change things? Talk about that.
Yes. So for the past about year and a year in July, what I'd been doing is interviews where I essentially introduce people that I know to my broader network through half-hour conversations. And while I have loved that, I also want to experiment with different styles of live streams and different ways of using it. A couple of weeks ago, I didn't happen to not have a guest. And it was the week that the LinkedIn design changed and they released stories. So I just went live myself and I was all excited about it and I was talking about it. And I said, wait a minute, this is kind of fun doing it this way. So I'm going to experiment with things like the length of the broadcast, the topic or the structure of the broadcast and things like that. So just be a little more experimental after having done the same thing for over a year.
Yeah, I have not tried to do a solo show in quite a while. My first show was a solo, but it was a demo show. Like I demoed how to do something with some computer code, and it kind of worked all right. I haven't gone back to trying to do those. Maybe I should. All right, now Scott, I know you do a lot of this, and you were talking about like this is your gig. So what are you hoping to do live streaming in 2021?
Definitely formalize it more. I've already got a couple of clients who I will be doing regular series with. In essence, the way it's set up is I've got a series called Telling Your Data Story. Again, that's the title of my book as well. That whole branding all works very nicely. People come on and tell their data story. And I've got sponsors as part of that. So, and in that case, the sponsors are helping, or in a lot of cases, just bringing the guests as well, or setting that part up. So if I'm working with a brand and they've got a number of customers and it becomes a nice conversation because customers like to, it's okay to do testimonials. That's one thing. But if you can then bring them to an opportunity where, look, this other voice is going to interview you. We're going to talk about the data story, gives us sort of some independent-ish third-party editorial context that elevates the conversation. And so for me, one of my primary goals as we move into next year is to really formalize that show, have it a little more regularly broadcast, and obviously also build the audience. So that's always that's a daily goal in terms of getting more and more followers, building more and more audience, getting more engagement, and all that. But
Yeah, I often say this about live streaming. I feel like live streaming right now is kind of like blogging was in 2002 or 3. People are doing it, but people hadn't really figured out how to build a business or use it to drive your business. People are kind of experimenting. And so I promise we weren't going to take very long on this. So Beth, I'm throwing you back up to the front and center. If people want to get in touch with you,
Sure.
how did they do that? What's the best way, and why would they get in touch with you?
Well, let's see. They get in touch with me if they want to maximize their use of LinkedIn as a prospecting or brand building tool. And obviously, LinkedIn is a great way to get in touch with me. And I also have my contact information right there. Beth@bethgranger.com is my email. So those are the two easiest ways to get in touch with me. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, I can vouch for that. Beth is the person I go to if I want to know about new LinkedIn features. She's almost always the first one in my network to announce them and try them out and use them. So, Beth.
And I hope LinkedIn doesn't get jealous, but I am now. The reason I'm going to be jumping off shortly is I've gone down the rabbit hole of Clubhouse. Have you heard of Clubhouse?
I have heard of it the last 2 weeks. I don't know what it is. Tell me what it is.
I'm addicted. It reminds me a little of, do you remember Blab?
No.
Blab was like being on a Zoom. 4 people could be on live at once, and then other people could be chatting. But something about the tone and the way that works reminds me of it. This is an app. It's all audio. So it's these conversations about topics, not about topics, and you can either be listening to it. So I took a walk the other day and I was listening to one, or you can have what they call a room. So a friend, somebody else that does what I do, and I have been doing on Tuesday nights at 5:00 Eastern, we've been doing what we call the LinkedIn Lounge, where people come and ask us questions and we just talk about LinkedIn. But the topics are all over the place and I'm just really interested in it. So I'm experimenting. Oh, Ryan, you're muted.
I got to unmute myself. I don't want to kick you off the show, but if you do want to leave, we're wrapping up. So if you drop off,
you will understand.
We will all understand. I was going to bring up Marco's comment. Blab was where he started live streaming.
Right.
Yeah, wasn't it fun? I loved it.
Did you ever use Blab, Scott?
No, I never used Blab.
So I even bought the domain
Check it out.
Blab with Beth, which I let expire because it's gone.
Fantastic. Well, Scott, why don't you tell us how we can get in touch with you and why we would want to be in touch with you.
Sure.
Also, about your book too.
I want to mention one other objective I have for next year, which is to upgrade my production value. So that I think there's a lot of work that can sort of be done with that, but we're not competing, but if you look at today and you watch just news channels and interview shows, the level has been reset. So if we can get a little bit higher, Whoopi Goldberg's calling in on a Zoom cam too. So she's, so there's some opportunities I think there to kind of up our game generally and really appear at that professional level that a lot of those folks are doing with a lot more equipment than we have. But anyway, if you want to reach me, if you're into data, if you are a data manager, if you're a data scientist, if there's anything about data that you work with and you want ways to explain it to people who don't seem to understand it, I'm your guy. That's what I do basically for every day for a lot of folks, and just for the general LinkedIn community, put out a lot of content there. As I mentioned, there's a wide range of it, whether it's just videos that are fairly straight, there's white papers, and then there's puppet shows about data. So there's all kinds of crazy stuff that I put out there. Find me on LinkedIn, Scott Taylor, the Data Whisperer. I've got a YouTube channel as well. It's burgeoning, Scott Taylor, Data Whisperer there. And love to talk to folks about what they're trying to do in the data space.
Yeah, so here's a little about Scott. So I got to ask you, is your 12 data days of Christmas thing still floating around on LinkedIn?
Yes. So the 12 days of data management, where I put together a whole bunch of data friends of mine, and we have a daily, 12 days of Christmas, only it's all about data management, and it is my puppets are emceeing it, so it's not really me. I've got a puppet called the CDO, the chief dog officer, and he kind of leads everything, and he does everything wrong in some of his other.
I have got to see that.
Yeah, it's great. Oh, it was a big hit. I put it out last year, and it just went nuts. And so now I'm working on. I had to finish my book over the summer. That was my COVID project, and part of the incentive to finish the book was once you finish the book, Scott, then you can work on more puppets. So
Love it.
I'm building a multi-episode arc with my puppet friends, the ITB, who talks in buzzwords, Monkey Business, who's all about ridiculous business stuff. There's a cat sultan from Meow Kinsey. There's all kinds of stuff coming. So if you like puppets and you like data, they overlap with me.
Yeah, Scott puts out some entertaining stuff out on LinkedIn. But I'm gonna cut the show off here. I'm gonna stop us talking. Those of you that are in the LinkedIn Live streamers group, we're gonna jump on a Zoom call. If you are a LinkedIn Live streamer and you are not in that group, send me a message and I will get you a Zoom link and get you invited to that. I think Scott's gonna drop by the Zoom group.
Yeah, drop me a link in there. I'd love to jump in. Yeah, for sure.
I will do that. And I don't know if Beth is going to make it or not. She's on that Clubhouse thing. Okay. So I think she's going to be doing that. But thank you, Scott, and thank you, Beth,
Ryan.
for
Thank you. This was a lot of fun. Good to see you.
Hopefully.
All right. Goodbye. Have a great day.
Bye, everyone. Stay well.